Hey guys, how's it going? It's Logan here with Hydra572. Now, if you guys are watching our channel already, you know that I've got quite a few knives that I want to review now, but before I do that, I want to go ahead and make this video. This is going to be outlining the process that we go through before we review a knife, give you guys some more insight into what we do, where our reviews are coming from, stuff like that. So I thought I'd start here because our knife review process starts with shopping for the knife and then eventually buying it. So I'd take you guys through. Now, I'm not as much of a pure user. I'm a little bit more of a collector, so different stuff is going to factor into my equation of whether or not I want to buy a knife. So maybe I haven't bought a CRKT knife in a little while. I'm looking through. I know I should get some reviews out for different companies. And CRKT's just got a lot of cool designs, so I'm looking through their stuff. And I know I'm interested in the M16s. I know maybe right now I only have, say, $50 to spend, so I sort it to lowest price first. I'm going through them looking, and here are these. You know, they're okay. Looking for something different, maybe dual Carson flippers. Haven't experimented around with those. I think they form an interesting guard. There's one, maybe keep looking a little bit. That one's 8CR13. Keep going. And then eventually we get down to this one here. This is a simplified idea of what goes into my purchasing process. Obviously it's more complex, but the different things factor in. Company that I haven't reviewed one of their knives yet or in a while. Designs that just interest me. Stuff like that, going through looking, oh, I haven't had one with an auto locks, the dual Carson flippers, I could use those to wave the knife open, and I just think it's a generally pretty cool design, so I would take a look at that. And you know, in this case I did decide to buy it. I was actually given this knife as a present from my dad, but I'm really happy with it. So he went through a process similar to this one. He was shopping around for knives and decided on this one. And so there's that. And then before I buy it, typically, you know, more so you're thinking, what am I going to use this knife for? And I know I'm going to be using this for emergency, tactical, and then just general EDC usage. In my EDC system, that right front pocket, big knife carry, the one that's not going to be used for EDC tests is much more of just a general purpose big knife and emergency tactical knife. So then I would go ahead and instead of ordering it off Blade HQ, I regret to say I don't support Blade HQ as much as I should for how much I'm on there. I'm on almost every day, but, you know, just to check new arrivals and stuff. But I'll tend to order off eBay more often, just because you can typically beat the price and they ship a little bit faster. So then I would go ahead and do that. I would purchase the knife, and then I would go ahead and do a unboxing when the knife arrived in a few days. And I already have an unboxing on this knife, but I don't think I did a very good job on it. I'll annotate it anyway, but I'll go ahead and transfer us over to the log, and I'll show you guys sort of what it's like doing the unboxing and then immediately after, just to go ahead and get a first impression of the knife. And that's the next step moving on from here. Hey guys, so I'm here on the log with the knife, and I checked I do have the unboxing first impressions video. I did a dual one with this knife and the CRKT Notorious, but it still gets the point across, and I think you guys get the general idea. When I get the knife, I'm going to be fondling it. I'm going to be, you know, checking the different surfaces, seeing if anything feels well made, cheaply made. I'm just going to be getting the general first impressions of the knife, the same way you would anytime you buy a knife or a tool or anything, really. It's the same general process of just getting a feel for it. It's a knife, so I'm going to be deploying it, moving my hand around on it, getting a feel for how comfortable the handle is, blade play, doing some sharpness testing, all that sort of stuff. And you guys generally see that. I think I definitely do it a little bit more, well, a lot more actually. I'm a knife freak. I love my knives, so I do it for the couple of days after I get the knife out of the package. I'm going to be just playing with it. You know, I'm sitting around talking. I'm going to be playing with the knife, fondling it. A lot of my friends can tell you that. It was a little bit weird when they got to know me. But yeah, I'll be doing that, and I think you guys generally get that. So I do that, and then I'll launch into a period where I'll be just carrying the knife in its intended capacity. So with this, it's a large knife, you know, a potential emergency tactical folder. I'm going to be carrying this right front pocket with another utility blade. My clipped outside my left pocket, the way I've talked about in EDC videos. I'll carry it that way, use it a little bit. Just to get a general impression of how it held up to, you know, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of just easy usage that way, see if it develops blade play. I'll leave the factory edge on it for that, so I'll get a feel for how the factory edge holds up. All that sort of stuff. And after I've had enough of that to get a general feel for it, how it carries, stuff like that, And now that 3 weeks have gone by, I'm not so worried about ruining my new toy. I've had a little time to get used to it. Then I can launch into a phase of a little bit harder usage and testing. And so typically I'll sharpen the knife up. I'll go ahead and do that, get a feel for how it sharpens, and I'll do my best to sharpen it up to a hair shaving edge, just so I can do all my testing from an even ground. And then I'll go ahead and do some testing, and I'll show you guys that testing. I'll show some footage of it here in a second, but basically what it entails is doing some cardboard cutting, paper cutting, and then some specific to the knife itself type tasks. So this being an emergency tactical folder, I did some stab tests into cardboard, stuff like that, testing out the lock strength. And I mean to talk about it later, but stuff like that has to do with how it's advertised as well as how I intended to use it. So if it's heralded as strong as a fixed blade and all of this, it's the greatest tool that you'll ever need, I'll probably test it a little bit harder than I would test a knife that wasn't advertised that way. But I'll test it in accordance to its intended usage. I'm not going to be testing the little Gerber paraframe the same way I would be testing this. I expect this to stand up differently. And so yeah, the whole time I'm doing that, I'm thinking about this little chart here, the review sheet that I fill out for the review, and some of the stuff I can fill out immediately after buying it or having done the fondling phase. So intended usage, pricing, blade profile, steel, grind. I can do that stuff pretty early on. The deployment, different ways you can deploy it. I can be doing that. The lock, I'll give it a little bit, see how the lockup holds up, see if it develops play, anything like that. But deployment, it's flippers, rotational opening, and you can use the stop pins as thumb studs if you want. So some stuff I can do early on, some stuff I have to wait a little bit longer on, but I'm thinking about this sheet the whole time I'm doing it. I'm thinking about doing a review, and so I'll go ahead and show you guys that testing. So here I am, I'm in my backyard. I've got the knife and a big old sheet of cardboard. I'm going to start doing some cutting to, it'll help with the edge retention, helping me figure that out, but it also helps with getting a feel for the ergonomics of the knife, the quality of the knife, and it puts some wear on the thing so I can get an idea of whether or not it's going to develop play, how the ergonomics are, if it's got hot spots that I couldn't tell about right away, how the clip will do in my hand, and then after a little bit I'll put some gloves on and we'll see how well I can keep a hold of the thing and control it with gloves on. These are some pretty thin gloves, but they still give a pretty good indication of how the traction plan is, stuff like that. So yeah, I'll just go ahead and get started, and right now this knife is, if I can find some hair, it is shaving sharp on the main portion of the blade. It is not shaving sharp on this, the other part. I don't know my terminology near well enough on Tontos. I couldn't get it sharp, getting it to hold parallel on the sharp maker. I just touched it up on the sharp maker. But this part is plenty sharp. So without further ado, start doing some cutting. I say that this helps more with the other points of the knife than with the blade retention, the edge retention, because in all honesty, I've tested a lot of knives, and I've only ever had a couple that did edge retention tests significantly different than the others. I've come to expect similar retentions from similar AUS-8s. I've seen some really spectacular heat treatments on AUS-8s. All the 8CR13 I've had behaves pretty much the same. Make some generalizations, but as far as I can tell, the steels that we're putting into high-level knives nowadays, they're good steels. They do really well, but you will always be able to get them dull doing this type of testing. So this is the type of thing I'll do. It's not always, this is a TV box. It's not always this. Sometimes it'll be different cardboard. You can get free cardboard at the post office, so I'll do that sometimes. But just do some cutting, just to get a feel for, just like right now, not to complain, the Karsten flipper is digging into the back of my hand. I'm cutting pretty hard, so I'm getting a feel for it, and cutting against the grain. This is thick cardboard. And so yeah, I'll keep doing this. And normally the test would go on longer than this, but yeah, that is not biting well. That asymmetric edge grind is really not biting the cardboard particularly well. Talk about that some more in a little bit, but so you guys can see, this is basically what the test consists of. This portion of the test anyway, just some fairly hard cardboard cutting. And I'll go back inside, we can test the retention. Yeah, that'll be it. So that's this portion of the test. So now we're back inside. I'm going to cut to some footage of me doing some stabbing tests. The purpose of these really is to test out the traction plan, make sure with some lighter stabs that I don't feel my hand slipping forward, and then to test out, if it's going to be really painful to stab with the knife, if I'm going to be able to hold on to it and control it real well, and then to test how well it penetrates. So I usually just stab cardboard. I'll throw in some footage of that right now. Suppose we should try one without the glove on.
Why?
Real life, you're not going to have the glove on.
Watch. This is the one that you cut yourself with.
Yeah, I'm going light. It's not excessively comfortable, but it's not uncomfortable. I'm keeping my hand off the guard though. I suppose I should try one with the guard. That was uncomfortable. Okay. So now I'll do a little bit of paper cutting just to show you guys how well it held up in that cardboard cut test. And that's about to be expected. Certainly a usable edge, not necessarily fantastic. Now, when it comes to steels, I've basically found that when you get into higher end knives above the $40 range with responsible manufacturers, you reach this pretty basic trade-off under these two things I've got under steel. You have retention and sharpening, and if your edge retention is really good, S30V I've found, sharpening is a pain in the ass. If your edge retention isn't so good, 8CR13 MOV, the sharpening's a lot easier. It'll only take a couple of swipes on the sharp maker. So you run a trade-off there, and I'll try to comment on that in each video, but I've basically found, with a couple of exceptions, that with responsible manufacturers and knives in a reasonable price range, retention and sharpening balance each other out, and it's typically not a problem. So now after those two tests, the stabbing and the cutting, after fondling the knife quite a bit, and after a couple of weeks of carry, I now have all the information I need to fill out this sheet and do the review. The review will have more talk about the knife's design elements, why I think the people that made the choices they did, more looking into that, how I feel like each element goes to make the knife what it is, and it'll follow these basic points. But those are the basic tests that we do. That's how we form our opinions for the reviews. We've all got our tastes, and those will show through in the reviews as well. I try to bring those across in philosophy videos so you guys know what you're dealing with. But yeah, that's the basic idea. A couple of tests, some carry for a few weeks, and then we're ready to make a review. So yeah, got the new review sheet here. You guys should see a review on this thing up tomorrow, I'll say. And so yeah, there's that. I hope you guys from that get a little better understanding of what it's like for us to go through and try to make a review, what that process is like, why our reviews are the way they are. I hope if you guys understand that better, you can more apply it to your situation. Just use the information better. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope it's been educational, maybe giving you some ideas if you want to review knives. But yeah, there's that. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more of the same.